Hey everybody, welcome back to WineupTV. I'm Wayne. Today we're going to talk to Cody Wright, the brains behind Purple Hands. We're going to sit down with him and you're going to get his philosophy on the grapes that he grows and the properties that he has. See you in a second. Want to see what's in my backyard? Hey everybody, welcome back to OregonWine.tv. I am your host Wayne.
Cody Wright.
Cody Wright. Doesn't need much introduction, but he is a rock star winemaker. When we come back, we're going to take a trip through his barrel room, sit down with him, and hear his philosophies on what he does best. And that's making wine and getting great scores along the way. All right, guys, welcome back. So, Cody, a little bit of the history of your family. You know, you pretty much grew up in a tractor, got involved in the wine business a long time ago, and then kind of branched out on your own. And I think it's one of the best things you've ever done. I'm sure you can agree with that. But you know, it's go ahead and tell people about your brand and your philosophy.
Okay. Well, I grew up with a couple big winemaking parents. My dad, Ken Wright, was making wine when I was born. My mom was helping him out on the farms we were living on and way out in the country in California. They made the pilgrimage to Oregon in the mid-'80s and started a winery called Panther Creek. And by that time, I was about 7 years old, and they were, you know, fighting the good fight, kind of Grapes of Wrath thing, to make their own wines and build their own brand. And it was still really, you know, they were kind of part of that second wave of people that came to Oregon. And, you know, I was along for the ride. Panther Creek kind of started blowing up for Corby and Ken, you know, in 1990 and 88, and Ken was making a bunch of wines that were getting really big press, and you know, their dream kind of started to fulfill itself a little bit, and they had some issues with some partners, and Panther Creek got sold, and in that course too, Ken and Corby decided to go different directions, and all in the meantime, me and my brother were, you know, just living in those wineries, and
Right.
we were, you know, I was driving a forklift at 8 years old.
Now your son's 6, and we just talked about running
Yeah.
through a willow tree and thinking that's the same kind of stuff I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, now you get to relive it with him, you know.
Yeah.
But what a cool thing to be able to drive a forklift at 8 years old.
Yeah, I don't know if I think it's just as much as my dad was just like, hey, get out of my hair.
Right.
I'm busy in the winery.
Right.
Look at this forklift. Go pick up some bins and shit. And man, it was, you know, I was living high on that stuff. And to me, it was kind of like, I need to learn this stuff because I got to help my dad. And,
Right. 8 years old. You knew that back then.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a crawler at 10, 11 years old, helping him mow fields and stuff like that. We had an old crawler. And so I think it was just out of necessity and keeping us boys busy. And I was one of those boys that wasn't afraid of very many things too, and always kind of I needed some direction, needed some focus, and so
Right.
he'd give me those things, you know, helping press, helping punch down at 10 years old and stuff. So yeah, I mean, you know, those were the days when I was old enough to kind of be hardly making an impact, but starting to, like, you know, grease some, you know, put some elbow grease here and there around places, and
Right.
not exactly make a difference, but at least be, you know, someone that they could be like, oh, he's over there doing that and not in our way.
So in high school, were you making wine at all by then?
My brother was.
All right.
In high school, in his closet, he'd bring wines from the winery
This
and
is
have
stuff I love.
have all of his. We'd take it right out of the stemmer crusher, throw it in buckets, and then he'd secretly put it in his closet and ferment all his own juice and drink with all his buddies through high school. It was so funny.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't making my own wine, but in high school, my summer job was we'd work all summer in the vineyards as part of Ken's crew. I'd put a bunch of my buddies together, my brother and his buddies, and we'd do all of the suckering, leaf pulling, canopy management, watering, everything you can imagine. We'd put together our own crew, and I did that from the time I was like a freshman or 8th grade until I was in college. And then in college I was more on the tractor, and I was helping do all the more bigger picture things in college. I'm not as much part of the crew, but more of like a tractor role, and in the wineries too, everything that needed to be done in terms of fermentation, and always helping around with all that stuff too.
So how did you choose your degree option? You went to University of Oregon.
Yeah.
And why did you pick the degree you picked?
Well, originally I really love rocks. So me growing up with the winemaking family and having so much immersion in winemaking and in vineyards already, it was more of like, well, how does the soil and how do these slopes and how does the geology, how does that impact all these flavors that I taste? Because I was around Pinot Noir and just wine for so much all the time. So my thought process was different, and it was a lot more of like, well, instead of like, how do you make wine or how do you grow a grape? For me, it was more like, how does the geology affect the flavor profile of this fruit? How does the water and the slopes and the wind and that terroir, how does that really impact? So the geology program at University of Oregon is like one of the best on the West Coast. And I went there specifically wanting to be in the geology program, and after quite a few rock chemistry classes was just like, whoa, this is a lot.
Right.
So I took tons of geology, lots of geography, lots of science, slope science, and freshwater stuff, and ended up getting, instead of geology specific, got environmental science, which was a really cool degree too, a little more broad in terms of land use and stuff like that. But it was 2 degrees. It was actually a environmental geography in geology or in science. So it ended up kind of giving me a lot of, I think, just capacity for forecasting and what I want, and just helping me be better at what I do now.
Right.
In terms of like thinking about properties and elevation, and a lot of that has to do with schooling, and then my pedigree and all of that is kind of, and where I come from has kind of created what's important to me at this moment.
And you have your house and your main vineyards are in Ribbon Ridge, AVA.
We have a vineyard, a 35-acre piece of property in the Dundee Hills called Hawk and Lene.
Okay.
22 acres planted 20 years ago, mainly Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that my wife and I own, and then we have a 26-acre piece of property on Ribbon Ridge, 14 acres in the ground there. We planted 6 acres 3 years ago, and we planted 8 acres just this fall. So that first vintage of Ribbon Ridge for us, estate, which is called West Wind Vineyard, comes on 2021 vintage.
Okay.
And then the first vintage of Hawk and Lene, which is our estate vineyard in the Dundee Hills, was 2019. And so it's in
Gotcha.
now.
So your Purple Hands is your purchase fruit? Some of it?
Purple Hands is more sourced fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, so long-term contracts. We do estate fruit with it too, some of our estates as well. And then we have a new winery brand that we've created called Hawk and Lene, which is my children's 2 middle names. My son's Tyrus Hawkenwright and my daughter's Winnie Lene Wright. And so it's a family brand built around just those specific 2 estates, Ribbon Ridge and Dundee Hills, whereas Purple Hands kind of has the freedom to do lots of different stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, guys. Some of your wines, great accolades, by the way, in publications, Wine Spectator, Wine Advocate. That must, as a winemaker, you always strive to make the best bottle of wine possible. We're coming off of some great vintages. What do you think is one of the best years you've had to make wine with, and one of the best wines you've ever made, besides the ones that sell out in no time at all? Tough question.
Yeah, it is. I guess I think about it in terms of growth. I'm 40 years old as of last week.
Happy birthday.
Thank
To the
you.
club.
Yeah, a bit of a milestone. I think my dad says I finally get to be smart now, which I'm looking forward to.
He's a wise man.
Yeah,
You gotta listen to him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. But yeah, 2012s were a big benchmark for me. The 12s were important to me because I would always I've been making my own wine since I was 25, which is when I started Purple Hands. That's going on 16 years now. And every year up until 2012, the wines I made, I would, Rollin Souls with Rocco and Argyle as my stepdad, my mother's husband. And I would always bring my wines, whether it's to Dad or to Rollin, and I'd make these wines. And then once I made them, I would take them and I would be like, well, put them on the bench and ask them, what do you guys think? Like, and a lot of the times I would change my wines because of just because of pointers they gave me or how they felt about it, and because they had done that, I kind of ended up making their wines more than I wished in some vintages. And
that's understandable though.
And in 2011, after that vintage, it was a tough vintage, as we all know, and I did some things to some of my wines, like in terms of kind of heavy winemaking stuff, in order to just try to make something better. But really, what I had was beautiful, and I ended up kind of ripping the guts out of some of these wines that I wish I wouldn't have. And I learned a lot with myself. And I said after that, it's like after that, they never get to taste my wines until they're in bottle. And so in 2012 was the first year I said, no, none of these two incredible role models I have ever get to taste my wines till they're in glass. And I'm going to follow my gut all the way to the end. And in 2012, all the wines went unfined, unfiltered. I'd never filtered another wine. Started doing more wild ferments. Just really started making the wines that I knew I could make because I was doing things to wines in previous years because that's how I was trained.
Right.
I was like, this is textbook stuff. Not even textbook, just as like training stuff through the family that was like part of my family's winemaking stuff. Like, this is how these are the steps and how we make sure that we make quality food in this way. And it wasn't because I wanted to make it. That was just like, this is how you do it.
Right.
And in 12, I kind of was like, I'm gonna start with my restaurant, and I just started
awesome.
really following my guts. And those wines got huge press, and I feel like that's when PH just kind of jumped off the map.
I was there for that. I mean, it was, of course, it came out the great vintage, 2012, really kind of put us back on the map again. Yeah. Great scores. One thing that I absolutely love that you started to do, I don't know how many years you've been doing it, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Dude, your Chardonnay is off the hook.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great label, but it's just the juice in the bottle. It's really Oregondian, like a little Burgundian, a little mix with a little bit of Willamette Valley. It's not overly oaked. What's your philosophy on your Chard?
I think it's kind of my philosophy on winemaking in general is like, I know we're all kind of striving for that North Star of Burgundy in a sense, because it's, such this pinnacle of history and quality. But I think the older I'm getting and the more I'm in Oregon, and like, I like Oregon Pinot Noir more than I like any Pinot Noir in the world. And you drink a $55 Oregon Pinot Noir, it's like drinking a 20-year-old $2,000 bottle of Burgundy. And there's just like, you can't get the quality that you get for Oregon for the price of what things are. And so I'm just, even though, Burgundy is incredible and so much respect, I'm more about I make Oregon wines.
Right.
I make Oregon Chardonnay, and I try to make Oregon Pinot Noir. And it's about shepherding this incredible geology, this incredible history, this incredible soil, and these incredible grapes, and shepherding to the bottle and showcasing what's so special here. I'm not worried about Burgundy anymore. I don't want to try to replicate that stuff. So what I'm trying to do is make Oregonian. Oregonian
wines.
Yeah.
So what's your case production now on your Chardonnay? I know it's increased a little bit.
It's been about the same. We do about 1.2 acres right now. Next year we're actually going to increase it a lot. We have 5 new acres at Hawk and Lene, so we'll be doing a Hawk and Lene vineyard designated Chardonnay, a Purple Hands vineyard designated Chardonnay, and then we're doing a Lone Oak Chardonnay, which is our entry level. So we'll be doing over 1,000 cases of Chard coming up.
Boy, what a jump!
2020, yeah, that'll be crazy.
From 1.25 acres, which your production on that's what, about 5 or 6 barrels?
It's about 10.
Okay.
And
You're hanging a little.
220 cases. Yeah, we get about it's really densely spaced, like old school Burgundian spacing. So
gotcha.
it's a meter by a meter and a half, 5 foot by 3 foot between the vines, 5 foot rows and 3 foot between the vines. So you get over 2,400 vines per acre. So you can, because of that density, there's a lot of fruit there. And awesome. So because of that density, you're able to ripen high quality at 3.5, 3 3/4 tons to the acre. So it ends up being, and that's at like 1 cluster per shoot kind of stuff. So I mean, there's not talking like we're hanging a lot of fruit. It's just a lot of fruit out there because of the density. So, yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, so.
All right. Lastly, your hours here. You're open. This is by appointment only stuff too, folks, until we get rid of this COVID thing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
The tasting room here at the winery is 7 days a week, 11 to 4 on the hour by appointment. We strictly ask for reservations. You can call us on the day and see if anybody, if we have any opportunities. And usually we can fit somebody in here and there, but we really rather you try and reach out through email at seller@purplehandswine.com. Our second tasting room, which is up on the vineyard, which I think we're going to go see.
Yeah, we're going to go see it in a minute. Yeah.
Is Hawk and Lene Vineyard, and it's Hawk and Lene tasting room. We also pour the Purple Hands wines there, but then exclusively you can buy and taste the new Hawk and Lene brand there, winery brand. And that's Thursday through Saturday, 11 to 4 on the hour by appointment as well. So, yeah.
Hey guys, hunt these wines down. When we come back, we're going to go up to this property, and it's a beautiful, small, awesome tasting room. See you in a minute. All right, everybody. So, Cody, where are we sitting right now?
We're sitting at 600 feet elevation in the Dundee Hills, 100% Jory soil at a vineyard called Hawk and Lene, which is named after my 2 children, inside of our tasting room on the vineyard.
And this is by appointment, Thursday through Sunday from 11 to 4. I'm going to blow this place up. This is a beautiful, beautiful tasting area. All right, so your estate, this is all estate fruit with this brand. Some of your estate fruit goes into your Purple Hands brand. And then you have an intro brand, which I think is brilliant, called Lone Oak.
Yeah, it's part of the Purple Hands portfolio, but it's a $25, $30 retail wine that you found out in the marketplace. And it's an incredible value. It's made from, we've got Freedom Hill in there and Holstein Vineyard and Latchkey Estate and Hawk and Lene. And the fruit, you can't find a entry-level Pinot Noir with Grand Cru Oregon fruit in it.
That's
for that price point.
Absolutely.
And every year it's, Win Spectator has blown it up as Best Buy's 93 points, multiple years. One of the best value quality wines coming out for that price point every year. It just gets really big accolades.
And I think it's pretty cool how well you've become noticed with all the publications as well. You're on the front page of the Almanac. The other publication,
Wine Spectator's Buying Guide.
Wine Spectator, front page. It's this tasting room right here, all corrugated steel, beautiful architecture. Case production now total with all your brands
is about 6,000 cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it kind of scales down. Obviously, some of your specialty vineyards, you're not going to make us.
Hawk and Lene right now for our estate stuff is for just this brand is really small, only 120 cases for now, and it'll probably stay like that for the next few years. Where Purple Hands is, about 6,000 cases, about 3,000 cases of vineyard designateds, and then about 3,000 cases of the Lone Oak Ranch brand, which is our entry-level Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, hey guys, the sales are online. Your website is?
purplehandswine.com.
And they have a great wine club too. And I've brought several people here, sign up for the wine club, bought a tremendous amount of wine. If you want to hunt down a pedigreed winemaker at only 40, just turned 40 last week, congratulations, give them a shout, and these wines will be available as well. So, Cody, thank you very much for taking the time to introduce your brand to some strangers. And you guys, if you ever want to come out here and take a tour, this is one of my stops, so definitely hit me up, GreatOregonWineTour.com. We'd love to take care of you. Until then, we'll have another story in a few days. Take care.